So there's this wave of instability sweeping across West Africa. And, regional leaders are scrambling, they're sounding the alarm. But as they rush to treat the problem, a really critical question is starting to bubble up. Are they even focused on the right thing? What if the problem they're trying to solve isn't the real problem at all? Let's break it down.
So you look at it, and the emergency seems pretty obvious, right? It's a bunch of military coups. But what if we're all looking at this the wrong way? What if these takeovers aren't the actual disease? What if they're just a symptom of something much, much deeper going on in the system?
Okay, so here's the official response. The regional group, Ecowas, think of them as kind of like a union of West African countries. They went and made this formal declaration. Basically, they're saying, hey, we've got to do something, but what exactly is their plan?
Well, it turns out Ecowas has this standard playbook for exactly this kind of crisis, and it's all about putting the squeeze on military leaders to get things back to normal. So let's take a look inside, shall we?
Their toolkit basically boils down to 3 steps, and each one gets a little more serious. First, they try talking, diplomacy. If that doesn't work, they hit them where it hurts, the wallet. And if that fails, well, there's always the threat of sending in the troops as a last resort.
And get this, these sanctions can get super personal. We're not just talking about blocking trade between countries here. Nope, ECOWAS can go straight for the coup leaders themselves. They can freeze their personal bank accounts, stop them from traveling. The whole idea is to apply this really direct pressure, to force their hand.
And all of this really gets to the heart of what they're trying to do. For ECOWAS, the problem looks pretty simple, right? A military coup messed up the democratic process. So the solution is just as simple. Get rid of the coup and put everything back the way it was. But as you can probably guess, it's just not that simple. And a lot of people see this completely differently.
Which brings us to a totally different way of looking at this whole crisis. This other perspective, it basically says that focusing only on the coups, well, that's like trying to treat a fever with an ice pack without ever bothering to look for the infection that's causing it.
And this quote, which comes from Ghana's president, just nails the counter-argument. It's suggesting the military isn't just grabbing power because they can. No, they're stepping into a void, a vacuum that's been left behind by the failures of civilian politicians.
So, what we have here are 2 completely competing ideas. On one hand, you've got the official view. The military coups are the disease. But on the other hand, you have this idea that the coups are just the tip of the iceberg. They're just the obvious symptom of a much, much deeper political sickness.
Okay, so what is this deeper illness they're talking about? Well, according to this other diagnosis, it's a total breakdown of trust between the people and their leaders. I mean, think about it. When you see corruption everywhere and nobody's held accountable, when you feel like your trust has been completely abused, when you watch politicians get rich while everyone else suffers, your faith in the whole system and democracy itself just starts to fall apart.
And, if you start to buy into this different diagnosis, it makes sense that the solution, the prescription, has to be different too, right? You can't just slap a bandage on the symptom. You have to go after the actual disease.
So here's the alternative prescription. Instead of declaring a state of emergency on military coups, this idea says ECOWAS should declare a state of emergency on the things that make people welcome the coups in the first place. We're talking about corruption, a complete lack of accountability, all the stuff that makes people lose hope in their leaders.
And wow, nothing shows you this shift in how people feel quite like this little story. Just picture it. You're at a big presidential inauguration, a formal event, and the loudest applause from the crowd, it's not for any of the elected presidents, it's for the military leaders. That is a huge signal. It tells you people are desperately searching for any alternative to business as usual.
And this really brings us to the heart of the whole debate. It's not just about different tactics. It's about a deep, fundamental disagreement over what the real threat to West Africa's stability actually is.
So what's the real danger here? Let's be honest. Is it the soldier who storms the presidential palace? Or is it the rampant corruption and the feeling of complete hopelessness that makes that soldier look like a hero to the average person? That right there is the fundamental criticism of where ECOWAS is putting all its energy.
And that really leaves us with one final big question. When you think about the long run, what really makes a country's future secure? Is it just stamping out every rebellion the moment it pops up? Or is it about building a society where people don't even want to rebel in the first place? The answer to that question is going to define the future of West Africa.